Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Around the Ballpark podcast. We are live on YouTube. It is October the 20th, and tonight we're talking Washington Commanders football. We are talking NFL, and we're going to talk a little bit about everything else as well. Alongside is my co-host, my partner, Darren Redmond, and our guest of honor wearing the Washington Commanders helmet is Brian Anderson. Thank you, Brian, for joining us tonight. And before we dive into the fun stuff, Darren, will you read a word from our sponsors?
I'll read more than one word because one word, that'd be like weird. So attention, Palm Bay and everybody else. Do you have tax troubles? Nashville Tax Solutions has got you covered. You know, whether you're behind on returns, you're facing a lien, or just need some expert advice, their team is ready to help. Hear what clients say. Chris Bennett and his team saved me from a financial nightmare. They're knowledgeable, clear, and compassionate. So don't let taxes stress you out. Reach out to Nashville Tax Solutions today. Well, right after this live feed, because that would be rude to leave us and everything else, especially since Chris is paying for this. So call 615-502-2250. Visit NashvilleTaxSolutions.com or email info@NashvilleTaxSolutions.com. All kidding aside, Nashville Tax Solutions is the best. They'll treat you like a human being. They will treat you with compassion, and they will, find a solution that will benefit you. Nashville Tax Solutions, where tax resolution is achieved.
Yes, and just got off the phone actually right before this podcast with Christopher Bennett. And he advised he will be heading to the World Series on Monday, depending on how tonight's Game 6 shapes out in Los Angeles. And tomorrow, see how the Mets or the Dodgers take that series. We know the New York Yankees are there. So he's excited. I'm excited for him. That's going to be a great experience to go up to New York for that. So I'll be watching that game live later tonight. But we're here tonight to talk about the Washington Commanders. Brian, thanks for coming on. I know you've been on a few times with a few different guests, but the spotlight is on you, my brother. Tonight we're talking Commanders. So a little bit about yourself, how you became a Commanders fan, and any fun, like off-the-cuff stories you can share, whether it was attending some games or just in general, how you became a fan of the team.
First off, Mike and Darren, thank you for having me. Great game. This is why we stay ready. Nobody knew Jalen was going down, so I was ready. They didn't call me in the game, but I was there to cheer them on, extra special. So this is why you have to be ready, and I'm always ready. Apparently, I wasn't ready for Commanders because I still have all Redskins stuff. That's what we used to be called. We weren't very good then, and we're kind of good now. So I think I'll take the Redskins helmet off.
The name change worked for the Guardians. They made it to the ALCS, so who knows? Maybe this
the Guardians.
Yeah.
How come the Chiefs are the Chiefs still?
I know. I think just some are okay. Like we allow the Chiefs and the Seminoles and the Braves, but
do you know this? Do you know the backstory behind the Seminoles?
The Florida State Seminoles.
Yeah.
They
don't win games. That's the story now.
But what happened with that was, and I'm not going to get into the politics of it, but two quick stories. But the Seminole Nation were like, whoa, we don't want you to change it. Nobody here wants to change it. We're happy. We have an agreement with the school. We're very comfortable being, with the Florida Seminoles. And then how about with the Blackhawks? You ever wonder why the Blackhawks, who have the greatest jersey in hockey, and I'm a Ranger fan. Do you know why there's no protesting there?
Chicago, you'll get shot.
No, well, okay, mean, but no. The reason is there was a contract. That's the face of a chief that they admire. Paid contract for life. You can't, Anyway, I just want to let you know.
Same thing with the Redskins. The family actually came out, and
Yes.
There was a picture of a very famous chief, and they wanted it back. It brought a lot of notoriety to that tribe and their cause, and sometimes you need that. I understand it. It is what it is. We live in the times that we live in, and that's fine. It is what it is. For me, it's a sport. It's a lot of fun. Originally, I was a Niners fan back in the Joe Montana day, and I was a huge Joe Montana fan, and they benched him. They pushed him off to the side and pretty much pushed me off to the side, and I had to find a new team. It was the early 90s. and Mark Rippon in the Redskins were 13-3. I liked them before they were 13-3, but they had a great year that year. And they had some predominant teams before then: Joe Theismann, Doug Williams, first black quarterback to win a Super Bowl, Art Monk, Gary Clark, Ricky Sanders, of course, John Riggins, the Hogs. Just a storied history. So I left the Niners over there in San Francisco and jumped on the Redskins bandwagon, and I've been here crying for about 20 some odd years now. But we're looking pretty good. The jersey I have, you probably can't see it. It's RG3. That was the last time we were relevant, 2012. And just, man, that guy came out with a lot of fire, impressed a lot of people. But I think running quarterbacks are very fragile. So that lasted the one season. We won the division that year. But just the only Redskins game, because I'm super, super cheap, and basketball games are cheaper to go to, and there's a lot more of them.
Can we book him for next week too? I'm absolutely.
But, they had those little boxes at Walgreens, and it's like win a cruise. It actually said win a football game, and I always thought they were a scam just to get your information. And a friend of mine had won, and they were actually dream seats to a Tampa Bay game that happened to be in Washington. So we were front row for Tampa, Washington. It was an absolute free food, free sodas. We were like at the guardrail. They could have handed you a thing. Graham Gano used to be our kicker. He left us to go to Tampa Bay, and our new kicker, I think, missed 2 extra points that game and 2 field goals. It was raining the entire game. Tampa Bay whooped our butt, which my buddy was a huge Tampa Bay fan, so he's just pushing me the whole time in the rain. Soggy hot dogs. But it was an experience like none other. And probably the best part of that was the subway, because the Ravens also play there. So you have a healthy mix of Redskins, Ravens fans on the subway, just joshing each other and beating each other up and having a lot of fun. But as long as you don't take it to the extreme of you'll die if the team loses, which I see some sports fans do, they leave crying, and it's like, really? I know we spent a lot of money, but it's not that important. And you don't have so much invested into them that it's a live or die situation. It's just fun. Then I think there's nothing better. So
that's amazing. That's awesome. And just so much to dive in to the storied franchise. And we have to start. You mentioned today's game. Those that are fans of the podcast, listen to the podcast, for whatever reason, I'm still not quite sure. I'm a Carolina Panthers fan, and I think it's time. It's okay to jump off the ship. And I know the wife's asking me to come aboard the Tampa Bay bandwagon. I'm not quite sure I want to do that. They are division rivals. Can't really call them rivals if we lose to them every time. But let's hear about that game today. So you mentioned the injury, but just kind of a synopsis. Those that know, this week it was Washington and the Carolina Panthers. Carolina was down 17-0 early. So what went right today for the Commanders? We know what went wrong, but what went right today? What stood out to you?
So surprisingly, they're playing well. Our run defense has been atrocious as of late, but we started the game off with a pick six, which is just the way you want to get rolling. Sam Darnold came out, and it's not Darnold. Who's your quarterback in Carolina there? It's something with a D, because I think Darnold's in Minnesota up there. They just got their first loss. Something with the D. Anyways, he comes. Oh, Andy Dalton, excuse me, the ex-Cowboy. Yep. Sam Darnold was there last year. Comes in, throws the pick six. Dante Fowler Jr. gets it, who's been playing just incredible ball. He had a couple of sacks last game. And his father, Dante Fowler, was a credible ball player. But this guy comes in, pick six all the way to the house. Starts us off on the right note, because they had got a big run and a big pass in the first 2 plays, and it was the defense has been lax and our offense has been on fire. So we've been winning games, but they've been close games, and we've kind of let teams in it. So that it was good to see that. It was fast paced, and then Jalen Daniels takes off, has a good run. I want to say it was like a 20-yard run, and then he just kind of stopped short and did that weird slide that he does, which isn't a slide. He just kind of puts his feet in, and it just goes down very awkwardly, and it looked like he bruised a rib or cracked the rib or stretched a muscle, something. I'm sure it's fine, because we have a giant game coming up next week against the number 1 pick, Caleb Williams. I'm sure we'll talk about that. But it kept going from there, and Mariota came in. A guy that came back that didn't play last week, Brian Robinson Jr., he wasn't there in the Ravens game, and I think that might have been the difference. We lost 23-30, and as a fan, that's incredible that we were even in that game. But Brian Robinson Jr. came out, pounded the ball. We got Austin Eckler from the Cowboys. He's pounding it. Mickelson is pounding it. We're just going in. Terry McLaurin is on fire, and they showed the stat. He's played with like 20 different QBs in the short time he's been in the league. He's just an all-star stud. And I think I told you about this. I think it was two or three games ago. Maybe it was when they beat the Giants. They were doing the exit interview with Jalen Daniels. He thanked the offensive line, thanked Terry McLaurin, thanked Zechariah and all the receiving core, and then threw it all and said none of it was possible without God and Jesus, which just it's humble to me when you're not there, you're not taking the glory, you're not like, look at me, I told you, I'm a Heisman winner, I'm from LSU, I'm the star, I did this. It was all about the team and the one guy that leads the team up above. So just super cool, and made me even more like, man, is this dude the real deal?
Yeah. And, so they're sitting there, if I'm correct now. So they're sitting at 5-2, correct?
5-2. One loss, week 1 to your wife's team. I did that as a favor for a birthday present for her. I let them lose. And then the loss to the Ravens. So
yeah. So we know that division is what it is. So a lot of people, they can look at, and Darren, I want to get your thoughts on this. So a lot of people can look at week 1 of the NFL season and even week 2 and go, team sitting 2-0, we're looking really good. This is the year. New Orleans Saints, I was guilty as charged after the first 2 weeks. The amount of points they put up, remarkable. And I was already putting them in the NFC title game. Come to find out, they are where they are right now. I saw that they put something out today in the local papers that they're having an open tryout sometime this week to find some additional talent. I thought it was a joke. It was legit. So there is a lot of overreacting that goes on. But I know they're not the Commanders, but we have to just briefly discuss what happened with that Lions-Cowboys game last week. That was something else. It was over before it began, and it was just embarrassing. Just your thoughts, Darren, your thoughts on that. I'm not sure how much of that game you got to see, but
the Lion-Cowboy game?
Yeah.
Well, the Cowboys to me are bullies, and I'm actually not being comedic here. And as you know, I used to play college football. I coach college football, coach the offensive line. I love the Hogs. Bullies are teams that like to get up in front and play from the front. And then they feel like they can intimidate, the crowd gets involved. And as we all know, the first 15 plays are scripted, first couple of series. So what happens? You strike first, you punch them in the mouth. And they are not a good come from behind. They're used to people being intimidated. They're the Cowboys. If you watch the Lions today, I mean, with the comeback victory over Minnesota for their first loss of the year, they're not intimidated. Goff, they got a very good. I think they got one of the strongest teams in the NFC right now, and the Cowboys are a great finger pointing team. You're supposed to throw flowers at us because we're the Cowboys. It just gets away from them, especially when they play at Jerry World down in Dallas. That's what happened there.
Yep. We have a question that came in. This is for you, Brian. Do you find it strange that Kirk Cousins is doing what he's doing for the Falcons, but not so much when he's with the Commanders? Before you kind of dive into that, I remember Kirk would sometimes put up these monster numbers, but then the defense would fall short. But your thoughts on that with Kirk now, what he's doing with Atlanta?
So everybody in the league looks up to Counting Cash, Kirk Cousins. He got some guaranteed money when he left Washington to go to Minnesota. A ton of it, I want to say like $100 million. I think it was like $88 million guaranteed. When he went to Minnesota, he got Minnesota there. And I think he even did the same thing with Washington. He got us pretty close, but he could never get us across the line. He's a lot like the Dallas Cowboys. Because if you're a Redskins fan, you're also a Dallas Cowboys hater. It comes with the territory. You have to hate the Cowboys. It is what it is. Like when we have losing seasons, all we want to do is beat the Cowboys. But Kirk Cousins, right, did great at Michigan State, won a bowl game there, comes out, is playing behind RG3. RG3 gets hurt. he has a couple good years with great numbers, but at the end of the day, do you want an okay quarterback that can get you to the playoffs, or you want somebody that can win you the Super Bowl? So he'll do very good with the Falcons. They'll probably win at least 10 games, but at the end of the day, he's not a playoff winner, and it just is what it is. He got a ton of money to do it. You just saw the monster numbers Deshaun Watson got in Cleveland, and he got carted off. Say prayers for him. I hope he's well, but man, he's counting that money all the way to the bank too. He's played horrible this year. I want to say they're 1-5. But that was all set up by Kirk Cousins. Aaron Rodgers got a ton of money. I think somebody down in Houston got some money. So Kirk Cousins did that, counting the cash. Cousins.
Yeah,
His brother plays for the Yankees. His cousin plays for the Yankees.
I did not know that.
Yep, I did find that out. Wanted to both get your thoughts on this as well. So starting with you, Brian, then Darren. So talking about the NFL draft and wanted to know, like, as a diehard fan of a team, how invested are you in the draft, the pre-draft, that sort of thing? I know that I cannot. I think I said this one time many weeks ago, but I can't stand in baseball season when they're doing like 35 mock drafts before the actual draft. I want to get into the draft, but it's almost that I see so much beforehand that it's just like, okay, kind of over. But are you, as a diehard fan of that team, are you invested in the draft? If so, night one only, night two, like how many nights there are, I'm not quite sure. But and then with that said, how do you feel that their draft went this year and what they brought to the table?
So it's weird. The draft 1-5 is probably important, maybe 1-10 at the most, and then kind of everybody else is in between. But then you have Tom Brady, right, Mr. Irrelevant, and he's won 7 Super Bowls, and it kind of makes you pay attention. But I don't think you can pay that much attention when you have a family and stuff. But obviously that 1-5 slot, you want to see who you got. Jaden Daniels was number 2. RG3 was number 2. Jonathan Allen, I think we picked up with a first rounder. Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen's out for the year. So I think you watch, but you can't get that invested. I think you're kind of jonesing for some football, so you get to say your team's name and where you're going to go. But this is the one game where I think a quarterback, maybe a running back, not so much as it used to be, can really change the dynamics of your team. But you have to have a culture shift and a guy that knows he can win in a very hard league. But college ball now, right, with NIL, they're playing a lot of pro style. That wasn't the case 25 years ago. You sat the guy for 5 to 7 years behind a very reliable QB, and he learned the system. Now it's day one. You're throwing that ball, or you're not getting that money.
Yes, well said. And Darren, what are your thoughts on the state of the NFL draft? Has it taken some steps down? Do you feel like it's kind of mid, or what are your overall thoughts on that? Because I want to be more invested than I am, and maybe it's because I know that Carolina needs more than just one player, so I'm already like shooting myself in the foot. But your thoughts as a fan?
I think Brian hit a home run without changing my sport metaphors. He's absolutely right. I think it is WWE. Knowledgeable people understand that the draft is incredibly important. I'm not saying people that follow it aren't, but it's just all nonsense. It's talking head blather. Brian, again, you say it's for so people can go, yay, my team during the off season and buy shirts and do other things. It's a sideshow. It takes knowledgeable people to break down and have a good draft. You look at, Tom Brady was drafted in the 7th round, right? I mean, and Aaron Rodgers, for example, he was like the last of the old school route that I think we need to go back to. And that is, he sat on the pine and watched and learned. Now, I mean, I think Panthers are a great example. They keep drafting high potential quarterbacks and not giving them any time to learn the NFL. That's why they leave the Panthers and they're really good. Because by that time they've learned the NFL. They learned the speed, they learned the cadence, they learned the tricks. They keep throwing these kids out there, and they look out of the side of their helmet hole, the ear hole.
Yep.
I think they've done a disservice. The draft toned it down. I get what they're doing, and I don't care. I literally don't care. Look, ESPN will sometimes show tag or cornhole. I'd rather watch that than the draft. And I love football, but it's just a sideshow.
It's not just me. Okay, that's
to sum it up.
Yes, to sum it up. Yeah, and just a sidebar too. I know we didn't kind of talk about this, but we're talking about NFL very successful. I feel myself finally getting back into it. It's a couple of years where I kind of got away. But another issue is the Pro Bowl and what that has become. Let me put it this way: if you had any, either of you had any actual, I don't know, potential to change anything about it, do you want to see it become something more than it is, or are we just like, let's not? It can't be. The MLB season's a lot longer. It's going to be what it is. You can't really throw it in the middle of the season. Is there a way to rectify the wrongness of the Pro Bowl, or is it really just a lost cause at this point, and whoever watches it watches? But I'm curious to see what you guys think of that.
For me, it's been 5 years of just horror. I think they're doing flags now.
Pretty much.
To send my kid out there. I think the Saints are actually practicing for the Pro Bowl right now. I think that's what's happening.
That is, I can confirm. Yeah.
What if we did this? And I said this about politicians too, and I'll probably get shot at for this one. But what if we did a day of community service and like that team went out and served the community that they're from for that weekend, and then they had the challenges. So I did like those QB challenges. I think it was 8 to 10 years. They had like a couple of QBs and receivers come and do a challenge and then give all that money to charity. One of the things that I don't like about sports is the billions and billions that go in and it doesn't get back to the community. Now there is some that goes to specialized areas, but not spread out, and doesn't seem to have the impact I think it probably could if we were a little less selfish, and probably myself included in that whole thing. But if they had a weekend of maybe just giving back, that would be better. I remember it was Christmas time, and probably the only time I ever cried at football, and they had the guy's mom on, and the Bengals star receiver got killed, and he donated his organs. And the mom was talking about that, and it showed all the lives that football player's organs touched, and he had just signed like a $50 million deal. And to me, that was when football stopped being football and was real for that little time. And it just to see him laugh and lollygag, and it's the same thing with the basketball all-star game. It's just gone away from what it was. It's not a competition to see who the best of the best of the best is. It's just, hey, we're having fun and we're getting paid lots of money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Again, I agree. So here's what I think. I think what they should do is still have a Pro Bowl players, first team, that kind of thing, for contractual agreements. And I think it's really nice to be able to say, Mike Redmond, you are the best pitcher in the National League. You're 1 of 5. Give you your flowers, contracts. But I think with that, I think Brian hits a home run. I mean, give whatever that is to a portion or all of whatever money he'd get for being in the janky Pro Bowl to whatever charity best suits Brian. Yeah. No, I'm serious. You know what I'm saying? So Brian wins, gets a Pro Bowl. Mike goes into the Pro Bowl. You get to pick a charity where that goes. Now you got to deliver the check and take pictures and everything like that. Do some community service. I think that's great.
And one of our listeners has suggested that they can give to the family Christmas extravaganza.
Why not?
Why not? Right? Thanks, Rob. Congratulations.
It's out there now.
Congratulations once again, Rob, for the Yankees making the World Series. We'll join you shortly. Just give us till Monday. We'll get there. So shifting gears a little bit to one of the questions we have to touch on this. We have a few other things we're going to get to as well. But we always have to do the Mount Rushmore. That is a staple of our show, and we always have fun with it. And so I've got to know, there's a lot of history there. Yes, it's okay to go beyond just the Commanders. We can include the Washington football team as well. But your Mount Rushmore of Washington Commanders.
John Riggins obviously is a staple. He's got to be there. I would think, I don't know if you're putting Gary Clark or Art Monk there. because they both have a ton of records. Darryl Green is obviously going on there. He just had a big day, got the keys to the city. But, man, that dude was phenomenal. I would hate to see what he would have been like as a receiver because he caught the ball more than the people they were throwing it to. He was phenomenal. So you got Joe, you got Darryl Green, Doug Williams, just a barrier breaker. Mark Rippon, I don't know that he deserves a shot there because he had all the people with him. But you know what? We're going to put Gary Clark and Art Monk up there, Darryl Green, Joe Theismann, and John Riggins. And Doug Williams. Doug Williams is in there too. So it's 6 people on there. We carved another face. Yeah.
6 people. Okay. Yeah. We've gotten 5 before, but never 6. So we
just added one. It's fine. There's room. There
is room. It's
a whole big mountain.
Yeah, it's a big earth. Listen. So I agree with everyone that he said, and I will add one.
Is it sunny?
Joe Gibbs.
We'll allow it. We'll allow 7.
Joe Gibbs. Yeah, absolutely. The architect. Sorry.
The architect did it right. And then a special mention, you don't need to put them because they're 5 people, but the original Hogs. My gosh, would they changed the game, pulling the counter tray. I used to run that play all the time, both as a player and as a coach. The Redskins ran it all the time, and the Hogs, and it was beautiful. It was a beautiful play. I used to love to watch them run the ball. And, boy.
Gibbs may have more racing trophies than he does Super Bowl trophies. Phenomenal in both sports. Just an impeccable mind up there. And just that was a good guy of the time. You never saw him wrapped up in scandals or anything like that. Just a very good, solid coach and race owner.
And his grandson's a heck of a driver.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Ty Gibbs. He races right now.
I should have known that.
He's doing very well.
Yeah, and we didn't mention it, but you've got so much great stuff surrounding you, Brian, around you. So if you want to share a little bit about what you got going on there, I love it.
This is me, obviously. I'm Brian. This is the cool thing that you can't see. I thought this was cool. So you probably don't know who this is, and it doesn't even look like a Redskins jersey.
Brought to you by the number 4.
But this is Brian Robinson Jr. from Alabama. So it's got a signature on there from Pristine Auction. I think I got it for $20 because nobody knew who he was, and he had just got. So a story about Brian Robinson Jr. who don't know. I think he's been in the league 4 years, maybe 5 years. His first game, he gets shot in the leg, and I think he's back by week 5 or 6 running. I think he got 800 yards. So he came back. It was a botched robbery or something.
The guy broke in his house. I remember that.
Yeah, it's just crazy to be a football player to get shot through the leg. And Plexico Burress, he shot himself in the leg. This guy did not shoot himself in the leg. So I just want to give major props to him for not bringing a gun to a nightclub I'm not going to say the word. We need to stay on. We're PG. So, but Brian Robinson Jr. came back, did great things. I think he's going to continue to do great things. He's more of a monster now, but that would have been a career-ending thing for anybody. And he battled through it. You got Joe Theismann over here. This is an autograph one I got from my mom. Cletus.
From the University of Notre Dame.
Cletus. I don't know if you guys remember Cletus from Fox. The robot guy. So this is a Redskins robot guy from Fox.
I like all your stuff.
So my son was making fun of me because we have an unopened Gatorade, RG3, because he was the man. Why wouldn't you have an unopened Gatorade? I was thinking of taking bets here and opening it. You got Doug Williams in the back pulling it up, the Redskins little teddy bear, because you got to have a teddy bear. Back in the day, I probably used to throw all this stuff at the TV. When they lost a lot. But I did send a funny post to a friend of a water bottle when we beat the Cowboys and said genuine Cowboys tears in here. Send these back to you. You'll need them again.
Now, Brian, I got to ask you, you just mentioned you would throw at the TV. 2024, Brian, next week, Commanders go down. They're down 24-0 at halftime. What is 2024 Brian doing? Is he turning on is he putting on something else? Is he changing channels? Is he channel surfing? Giving up, turning it on? Are you sitting in the couch like this? Like, what's 2024 Brian
So really, like now when they're on and, everything is streaming now, so you can have it on your phone. So I really try to do something else and wait for the comeback. And I'm like, I know it's happening because I'm always that guy. We're down 110 points. And I'm like, we got this. It's right there. One possession, one stop. This is us. We have this. And never give up till the end. And I told my kids this. I coached a ton of basketball and soccer and even football. You're never down until you quit. That's when you're out of the game because there's a lot to learn in losing. And how you handle that loss is just as important as how you handle the wins and how you learn from that and come back and don't want that feeling. If you never know what it's like to lose, you don't know what it's like to win. Because that's where you come from. That's where the successes come from. That's where you want it more. And a lot of people don't understand, when you're playing basketball, baseball, hockey, whatever it is, if you're a teenager or a kid out there and you happen to be watching this, the people that are doing this professionally, they absolutely 100% dedicate their lives to this. And that doesn't mean you can't do it, but don't think you're not enough. This is absolutely not for everybody, but go enjoy it. And we had a coach that talked down to the kids and relived his high school football championship through the 5-year-olds. And that just ruined sports for my oldest son. And I will never do that. So don't turn it into something it's not supposed to be, and treat the losses not the same as you do the win, but reward the kids and let them know we're going to get them next time. Not everybody's a winner all the time. Not everybody gets a trophy. And if everybody gets a trophy, somebody's lying to you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I recently had a box of the amount of trophies and I'm sure at the time I really appreciated, but there were so many that were just like, it basically said reward for playing, like, didn't have a single win that season, but you're going to get a trophy. I was happy to take something home at the time, but like in retrospect, like it just took up space at that point. So
it's weird because I've coached youth sports and I'm head coach of high school and coached Division I softball in college and Division III football in college, and I'm a big believer in a participation awards. I'm being very serious now. When it's your first year in 7th or 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 5-year-old, I think they should get a trophy because this is a new paradigm for them. They're getting up early. They're not watching cartoons. They're going someplace after school for the first time. And what I'm rewarding is that they embraced something new and made it through.
Yeah, so they completed something. They didn't give up week 4.
That's the goal. That's what the certificate or the trophy's about. That you started something and you completed something. That's it. First or second place. Okay. Other than that, no. Pick up the stuff on the floor. Pick the bases up. Let's go.
Yes. And shout out to those 11 that were watching live. Go ahead. Don't be shy. Say something in the comments if you have any questions. You may be doing some things around the house. That's okay. Just let us know you're here. Otherwise, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing, keep talking, but just want to give you a chance to throw some questions in as we got about 5 minutes left here tonight. So I want to ask too, so one of the things in sports is division rivalry. In NFL, it's interesting because I feel like no other division in any sport has the potential where you don't have just one, you kind of have 3. And I feel like the division that Washington is in, you kind of have 3 rivals. So for the fan that may not know, Brian and Darren, if you want to answer after, but like, who is Washington? Is it a 3-way tie? Is there one that they dislike more than the others? I still will never get over that the Cowboys are in the NFC East. I will never understand. Ridiculous, but I'll digress. But Brian, what are your thoughts on that? Because who is their rival? Is it Washington, or is it Dallas, New York, or Philly?
Well, Dallas is Washington's rival, and I think it started in the Thanksgiving games. If you remember, 15, 22 years ago, there were 5 teams in each division, and Arizona was actually in our division as the Phoenix Cardinals. So that was weird, and I didn't understand how they were in there, but it's always been Dallas. We cannot stand Dallas. They're the Cowgirls. They're not the Cowboys, and you can see why. I mean, when they were playing, they had dresses on when they were playing the Lions, and they were cheerleading. They weren't playing football. But then also, Philly and the Giants, Daniel Jones just made us look like a laughing stock for the last 3 or 4 years. And we got him a ton of money, just like we do Kirk Cousins. So You know who has the Redskins number? And I would say that Philly is not our biggest rival, that they're our third. But Andy Reid, man, that guy has pawed the wall over the Redskins' eyes so many times. Donovan McNabb, he gives us. And Donovan was horrible. God bless his soul. I hope he's a great guy. Alex Smith, he gave us from the Kansas City Chiefs. Andy Reid is the smartest coach in the NFL, and he's got us time and time again. Deshaun Jackson we got, and just burned. But I think there was a time too, and we'll have to look at all 4 NFC East teams actually made the playoffs. So somebody had won the division. Obviously, that was a spot. And then the other 3 wild cards went to the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Giants. And I want to say we actually got past that round. We beat the first round. I forget who it was, but we were watching it at Fired Up Pizza. So it was pretty crazy to see all 4 teams. And the one thing about the NFC East is you never know who's going to win it. It's had so many different flip-flops through all the teams. It's not like the Patriots carried the AFC East for God knows how long. I think it goes back to 5 BC when they were winning championships. Looked like the Dolphins were going to have it. Now it's the Bills, and who knows? I think the Browns are in that division now. They just supplemented them into there. So
yeah, and you're right, because I think the NFC South up. So before Carolina traded McCaffrey, or McCaffrey went to San Francisco, it was 6 consecutive years of different division champions. So that was interesting. But it is uncommon. You know, we're now in 2024 where the same suspects usually show up, but some of those divisions, you're right, you never know year to year who's gonna come out on top of that. So for sure. And so I want to ask Darren this question. So it is almost midway of the season. Realistically, if you were approached by somebody asked, where do the Washington Commanders fall this year? How far do they go? Now we're week 7, week 8. We're not overreacting from 2 weeks. We're midway through, so we have a good consensus here. What is your thoughts on where they end up?
They win the East. They get a bye. They make it to the championship game. And I don't know what happens from there because other factors, I mean, I could rah-rah or I can poo-poo, but they make it to the championship game. And then depending upon injuries, who they play, do they have home field, those things come in, but they will make the championship game.
They will. So I have them at number 3. So I have them not getting a bye, but getting a favorable week 1 matchup. I'm going to overreact from what I saw today. So let's just say that. But I felt like watching Minnesota and Detroit, I felt like I was watching. Now I know obviously only one team can win that division. So I do have one other team above Washington, but I think those are 3 of the teams that are really going to be in it at the end of the season. So, but definitely could see them getting that number 1 or 2 spot. The way
I think it's interesting you say that. The reason I put them at 2 and not 3 is because I think with Minnesota and Detroit in the same division, they'll probably split. That kind of thing. And I think that the Commanders are just going to run a rough shot on the East.
Yeah. Very well. And Brian, I know you're a fan, but it's okay. You can put your team where you want them to be, but same question.
We're obviously going to the World Series this year. We're going to take the pennant home. We're very happy about that. The whole thing is we've been so irrelevant for so long that I think enjoying it now is important, and enjoying the wins are important. But here's where the pavement hits the road, right? There's hard games coming up. The Bears are coming up. The Steelers are coming up. The Eagles are coming up. The Eagles and the Cowboys have a lot to prove to win that division, which they both want to. The Eagles coach, I think, is on his way out if he doesn't start winning some games. And Mike McCarthy also might be on his way out. So they're going to want to win some games. These are huge division games. So for me, that's really what'll tell where the Commanders wind up. I would love to say first, obviously, we're going to the Super Bowl. Obviously, we're going to win it. It's a first-year coach, Dan Quinn, coached the Falcons, went to the Super Bowl. So we'll go all the way to the last play, and then we'll lose. So I think that's Dan Quinn's MO. And we like recycle coaches. Ron Rivera was a train wreck, but it's these next couple games, and they stack the way they changed the NFL schedule 3 to 4 years ago, where you have the rivalry games at the end, the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Giants. And if we're on top, those guys ain't playing. Like they're coming to murder us. You know what I mean? It's not football to them. It's like, yeah, I just want to kill these guys. I want them out. If we're not going, they shouldn't either. So that'll be tough. Seeing Jalen Daniels, how he comes back healthy, that'll be big. Let's say they do win the division. Then they get that first round bye. That would be great, I think, because you can scout that team. There's so much that needs to go into scouting. If you look at when Michael Vick came out, he ran over everybody because nobody knew what was going on. Now it's a little harder for Lamar Jackson. Patrick Mahomes, who even knows what that guy does? He's like a magician out there. I don't know what he's doing to do some of the plays that he does. But like they watch the quarterback, they see what he does. They have those tendencies. They have the flick of the arm. They have the wrist. They have the cadence when they do it. So they watch all that. So if you have that bye week, you can see that team. You can pick up on that. If you come in the wild card, though, you're hot. That's when the Giants beat the Patriots. So they came in. They started winning all them games at the end because they were horrible at the beginning, and they looked like they were going to ship Eli out on a bus. And he came back and won the freaking Super Bowl. So it's so hard to tell.
It is, and like we said on the baseball side of things in a lot of our episodes, it's really who's hot. Now, yes, we know Yankees are there right now, the Dodgers are there. They were some of the best teams all season, but they also got hot when they needed to in years past. And so you see teams like Milwaukee and Philly go down. They weren't playing their best baseball the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season compared to what they were doing, and so then we have the Mets that sneaked in, and so. You're going to have a team that's under the radar that may not be playing their best football week 8, but by week 15, week 16, there's going to be somebody that's sitting there maybe at a 3-5 right now, or 3-4 that's going to be in the discussion that we're not even talking about. A team like Denver stands out to me. Like they've won some games against some teams that I'm just like, wow, okay, didn't see that coming. I'm not sure if that would be them or not, but so this was a lot of fun. Going to hear some music popping in here, but we are excited.
Oh, I like the music.
Yes, I like the music. You got a band right behind me. But thank you guys for watching tonight. Just want to give you a little heads up of what is to come very shortly. Appreciate your patience. It's a big video, but we're going to be releasing our experience at the Fear Reach Screen Park. We went into all 3 houses. We were invited. Such a good time. You're going to really love that video. As soon as it's ready, I promise we'll have it out to you. Also, a week from tonight, on October the 27th, 8 p.m.
It will be
live.
a week later.
Week later? Yeah, week later.
7 days.
We are going to be talking all things Pittsburgh Steelers with Emmeline Bonilla will be on with us. So that'll be a lot of fun. A lot of big Steeler fans out there. And what's going to be exciting about that as well, in addition to talking about the Steelers, we're going to dive into a little bit of fantasy football as well. She's part of a ladies-only fantasy football league, and so she's going to share what that experience is like. So that'll be a lot of fun. And some other additional recordings coming out soon. So stay with us. As we said, we are going to meet that goal of 1,500 subscribers by the end of 2024. So just stay with us. We appreciate you joining on. Brian, thank you so much. Darren, once again, thank you. Yes, so share, subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff. And until next time, everybody, we'll see you around the ballpark.